Hi, welcome to Talking Text. Our passage is Psalm 1 and from verse 2. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. See the author here now beginning to describe the things that the blessed person is involved with. He's just described the things that the blessed person doesn't do or was not involved with, but here he describes what he is engaged with. Notice first of all the word delight, his joy. He finds great joy in God's word and God's instruction. Delight and joy isn't something you turn on; it just happens. You know, when you are experience joy, it's something goes on, and you're like, "Wow, that's incredible!" and you just feel this rush of joy and gladness. The writer here is suggesting that the one who delights in God's law, as he discovers and knows more of God, it's just the response is joy. His heart is changed. As he knows more of God's ways, his life is filled with delight and joy. He's not somewhere sucking lemons and struggling to do this. It's an actual delight. And I find that a beautiful picture and a challenging one. You know, sinners delight in scoffing. And so when you follow in the way of sinners, eventually you sit with them and scoffing becomes your delight. Mockery, unkindness becomes your delight. Whereas the one who is found in God's ways, his delight is in God's law. And the more you consume or meditate upon God's law, the more delightful it becomes to you. It's a joy to know God and to draw close to him. Is he your delight? And it says what he delights in is God's instructions, God's ways. Jesus is ultimately God's way. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He is the infinitely wisest and best counsel. He is the truth. And so this psalm is describing blessed is the one who walks not in the wicked ways, but walks in Jesus, who is the way, but also who meditates on the truth, who delights in God's law, his instruction. What is truth? Where is it found? Well, Jesus said he is the truth. And so the blessed or whole or flourishing person is finding his truth in Jesus. And then it says he meditates on it. Meditation is an interesting idea. I think mostly now we have a Eastern idea of meditation where you empty yourself. You know, in the Eastern idea, you empty yourself of everything and you think about nothing and you kind of empty your vessel, as it were. And that can actually work for a moment. And the reason it works is because if you are seated in the way of sinners and scoffers, or your life is a burden, you empty yourself of all of that thought. So you're trying to get rid of it. The problem is when you stop that kind of meditation, your thoughts and your behaviors come back and you are burdened again. And so you have to go and meditate again to get relief. The biblical idea of meditation is completely different. It's filling ourselves up, not emptying ourselves. We're filling ourselves up with God's truth, with God's ways. And that brings delight and joy. So it's a very, very different way of meditating. In fact, meditation is happening all the time. No one is not meditating. You're always thinking. And where do your thoughts drift to? You're always pondering something. Where do your thoughts drift to when you don't have a task to do? What interrupts you? What thoughts interrupt you? What do you keep thinking of? Well, that tells you where your heart is located and where your heart is seated. Is it seated in the person and the works of Jesus and the ways of Jesus? It's a challenging question. If you're meditating more upon things that are not God, then you are becoming like them, being shaped by them, and it will affect your behavior and you will begin to belong there. This is the idea that Moses put to the people of Israel when he said, choose life. Don't choose the cursed way, choose the blessed way. He's saying what you give yourself to will result in either life and flourishing or withering and perishing. And so we want to pursue and meditate upon God's ways. Jesus is that perfect way upon whom we ought to meditate as much as possible. Jesus, when he taught that Sermon on the Mount, he said, blessed are those who hunger and thirst, who desire to come after God. And then but he also said that what God would do be to put his laws into our hearts. So when he's describing, do not commit murder, I say to you, do not be angry. Well, whoa, how's that even possible? Anyone been angry before? I'm sure you have. But how's it even possible? Well, it's because something in our hearts has to change. It's not just an external action, but something inside of us has become ultimately different. And that only comes by the Spirit of God and by walking and meditating upon his ways and upon God. We can never perfectly walk in God's ways, but we're invited into it through meditating and thinking about God. I wonder if you would pray and ask God to help you to walk in his ways. We do pursue habits of grace where we read the scriptures and we pursue Jesus and we find godly counsel. But I wonder if you'd ask God to help you to find your delight, your joy in him and in his ways. We're always meditating on something. Let that something be God himself. And this is the call and the invitation of this verse, to meditate and delight ourselves day and night in God's ways. Paul in the New Testament says this is possible, that we can live according to the Spirit in Galatians 5. And that's how we do it. We need the help of Jesus and the Spirit to do it. But it is possible to walk with God and change our meditation from the things which bring death and dying and withering, to God and to his Spirit and to his ways, which brings flourishing and life. Thanks for letting the text talk.